In 2010, I became a long-time wrestling fan, a full-fledged committed wrestling fan. I watched wrestling from time to time, but I really wasn't a big fan of it. It was like 2009, late 2009 to like early 2010, I became a full-fledged fan. And I'm gonna go through each WrestleMania, the same like a ranking or anything like that, but basically I'm gonna go from WrestleMania's 26 to now and just give you which match I was anticipating the most heading into this particular WrestleMania. It's similar to a video Diesel 101 did, so you could check out his video. What kind of inspired me to do this one, anyways. So here it is. My most anticipated matches I was excited for from 26 to now. So WrestleMania 26, 2010. I gotta give it to Undertaker and Shawn Michaels. That first match was such a classic. I said I gotta see what they do next, and they knocked it out of the park. Over time, I used to say that this was my favorite match ever. It's kind of hard because 25 is so good, and this one is also good. It's like I always debate which one's the best one out of the bunch of them. As a match, it would probably be Undertaker and Michaels from 25, but if you're looking at it as a story point, then it will be this one, Taker Michaels 26. It's a hard one, but both matches are great, and yeah, this was the match I was excited for the most. Other matches that I was excited for, honestly, WrestleMania 26 had a really good build. A lot of people hate to admit it, but WrestleMania 26, you were actually invested in every single one of these matches. To say the least. So, good job for the build for WrestleMania 26. I kind of wish we got that for this year, but what can you do? WrestleMania 27. Uh, so this was a odd one because like I wasn't really like that excited for anything other than Triple H and Undertaker, but even then they weren't like really on the show that much. Every other story was kind of shitty and stupid, like Del Rio versus Edge. Cody and Mysterio were fighting because Cody's face got fucked up, even though we could clearly see it and he looks fine. Orton burying the Nexus once and for good, and then CM Punk being the new leader was bad. And then The Miz and John Cena had a match just to set up Rock and Cena, which over time I grew to love it, or not love it, but tolerate it, accept it. So I guess yeah, by default, Undertaker and Triple H was my most anticipated match of WrestleMania 27. WrestleMania 28. A lot of people you're probably predicting, oh, it's gonna be Taker, Triple H, Hell in a Cell. Nope. The match I was more excited to watch at this show was The Rock and John Cena. The Rock showed what he could do at Survivor Series. We saw that he still got it, so it's like it's about time. A match 1 year in the making. Like you never imagined these two ever wrestling, and sure enough they did, and they kicked ass. It was a good match. Yes, the crowd was a little bit tired, but I mean, what can you do? But it was a spectacle of a match. It was a really good match, and that is what people love to hate. That, oh, look at this, people rave about this match and it's not that good. Listen, sometimes you need a spectacle of a match. Like that's why Hogan and Andre and Hollywood Hogan versus The Rock, those are spectacle matches. They're not technical masterpieces. And this was what reminded me of those matches similar to that. And John Cena and The Rock did a great job. And for the first time in forever, the freaking Rock won, or at least John Cena lost. Like, damn, it was like something rare to see. So, yeah, that was awesome to see. WrestleMania 29. This is going to shock a lot of you, but the match I was most excited for at WrestleMania 29, I swear to God, was Alberto Del Rio versus Jack Swagger for the World Heavyweight Championship. The story was good. Anti-America. Like, keep in mind, I am Latino. The only problem with this match is that Alberto Del Rio is not the type of Latino you would go for. If it was Rey Mysterio or Eddie Guerrero, all for it. But this was a very exciting feud, and then over time, it kind of like they stopped being as hardcore with the racial slurs and stuff like that, which kind of sucked because that's how cancel culture works. And of course, Jack Swagger got in trouble with marijuana. I guarantee you, if he didn't get caught with marijuana or get in trouble, bet money, Jack Swagger would have probably ended up winning this match, and probably he could have redeemed himself as a world champion once again. But no, I'm being honest. This is the match I was excited for the most. Did it need to be for the World Heavyweight Championship? No, it could have been for the U.S. belt or just a regular one-on-one match. It wasn't a bad match. It was just all right. Taker and Punk. I was like, yeah, I'll watch it, but I was kind of skeptical of whether or not Undertaker still got it. I think he should have retired at 20. I've said this for years. Triple H and Brock Lesnar, I wasn't that excited for, and we already saw Rock and Cena. I didn't want to see it again, unless it was going to lead to a John Cena heel turn, but of course it didn't. WrestleMania 30 match I was anticipated the most. This is gonna be another weird one, but the match I was anticipated the most was John Cena and Bray Wyatt. Why is that? Now I love the build to WrestleMania 30 with Daniel Bryan versus the Authority, but I wasn't sure like how this match was gonna go about. Like I didn't expect Daniel Bryan and Triple H to knock it out of the park. Uh, Granted, I was wrong, and it ended up being the best match of the night, showing that Triple H does got it and he could still go around this time. But Cena and Wyatt, I guarantee you, I knew it was going to be a good match at best. And it was a different story, and I actually really believed that John Cena was going to lose. Unfortunately, he didn't, and it could have led to Bray Wyatt becoming the biggest star of all time. But unfortunately, plans changed. But I legitimately thought that Bray Wyatt could have beaten John Cena. Like I was in my mind, and that is what you're supposed to do as a job. The match itself, it had some stupid moments of John Cena. Will he? Won't he turn heel? Which was ridiculous. But overall, I thought it was a good match, and I gotta be honest, this is the match I was excited for the most. WrestleMania 31 had a shitty ass build. They gave us a match that nobody wanted to see, Brock and Reigns, that showed that Roman Reigns was far from ready and really haunted him down to this day. Taker and Wyatt was kind of like, ugh. We already saw Randy Orton and Seth Rollins. It would have been a good match if they didn't go so back and forth with it. Triple H and Sting, the feud was so stupid. WCW versus WWF. They could have just done Triple H and Sting and yeah, and then Cena, the American hero, taking on the Bulgarian brute Rusev, aka the anti-American heel, the Give Diva the chance, and then the IC ladder match. It was just them going back and forth with the belt. There was really nothing to get excited for at WrestleMania 31. With that said, without this show, like this was the first WrestleMania I have ever reviewed on this channel. Um, this that's a fact. Um, I guess the match I was excited for the most, I guess by default, it would have to be the ladder match, simply for the fact that I knew a ladder match was not going to let me down. But that's because I wasn't really excited for anything on this card. Like, really, like, nothing stood my interest. And I knew that Sting, now, I didn't expect Sting and Triple H to be a great match. It was a good match, but I've seen Sting in TNA enough times to say, like, yeah, this guy's got to go. Like, he's got to retire. WrestleMania 32 match I was most anticipated. Brock Lesnar and Dean Ambrose in a no holds barred street fight. The build was great, just like Dean Ambrose finding his inner side of himself. Now, I didn't expect Dean Ambrose to win, but I did expect to have a hell of a performance from Dean Ambrose. Instead, this was just some bland ass suplex city mess of a match that fucking sucked. Yeah, this is the honest truth. This was the match I was excited for the most. Like at one point, this was on the poster, and then they saw that match, and then like after a while, they took that match off and then put the divas or the women, I should say, in the poster. Like this is a known fact. Like Google it if you don't believe me. Hell, in the promo packages, they hype Brock and Dean a lot until they saw this match. Now over time, they just tend to hate it. But yeah, it was a really well built match of like, oh shit, what is Dean Ambrose really gonna do? This was gonna be the rebirth of John Moxley. and we were gonna have that classic Dean that we all love, or classic John Moxley that we all love, but it ended up being just a shitty ass 10-15 minute squash match that fucking blows. But yeah, that was the most anticipated match. Undertaker and Shane McMahon made no sense, and I knew that Undertaker was just old and not that good in the ring as much anymore. And then Roman and Triple H, people have been begging for this match to not happen, and it happened anyways. So yeah, that was my, and we've seen Jericho and Styles. We've seen multi-man IC title ladder match, and then the League of Nations versus the New Day. Come on, no one cared about the Andre Battle Royal. So, and then the women, we keep in mind this was during the Divas Revolution. This was the match of the night, but no one thought that the Divas were gonna have the match that we got. So props for the girls for doing that. WrestleMania 33, the Ultimate Thrill Ride. Now I'm gonna be real. This show was well built. Every match, even the matches that you didn't want to see, they try to get you invested. Like Cena and Nikki Bella versus The Miz and Maurice. When you hear it on paper, it's like, oh, I don't want to see that shit. But they build it up so well that I really wanted to see Miz get his ass kicked. And sure enough, that's what we got, and it was awesome. No pun intended. The only match I really wasn't excited for on this show was the main event, but that's a take it or leave it kind of thing. Even Randy Orton and Bray Wyatt was exciting, despite the wrong person going over yet again. But as far as the match I was anticipated the most, I'm stuck with two. I was excited for Owens and Jericho, and I was excited for Seth Rollins and Triple H. I think I would go with Seth Rollins and Triple H simply for the fact that the injury that Seth Rollins had to go through kind of made the match even better. And granted, I wish he sold the injury a little bit better, but this was an awesome match, an unsanctioned match. It wasn't the match of the night. I thought it was. I think the match of the night was Styles and Shane, but this was still a pretty good match, to say the least. A lot of people don't like it. I thought it was good. WrestleMania 34. Oh boy. I was just talking about this with a friend because, like, I remember like the matches that we wanted, they gave us, but they didn't give two shits about building up anything from these. And then the matches um, that we didn't want, they busted their ass off to try to get you invested, and we refused to accept it. So yeah, this was just a clunky ass WrestleMania. Over time, it just became one of the worst. Match I was excited for the most going into it, for me, it was and I'm being real, it was AJ Styles and Shinsuke Nakamura. I was one of the marks that said, oh, we're gonna get Styles and Nakamura. Now Taker and Cena had a well built match of Undertaker, Cena consistently calling out the Undertaker, but we didn't even know if that match was gonna happen, so I didn't count that. And everything else is just such a mess. I was excited to see Daniel Bryan return to the ring, but I would have preferred to do Bryan and Shane one-on-one, with Shane turning heel and Bryan turning face, of course, and then have Owens and Zayn in a fatal four-way for the SmackDown Tag Team belts, and then do Orton and Rusev. But then that would just led to more and more squash matches that was unnecessary. There was a lot of squash matches here, and this show was long as fuck too. So yeah, this was yeah. I was excited for Styles and Nakamura, even though it was poorly built. We knew that this match was going to be good. Granted, we didn't get a great Styles Nakamura match until months later on a fucking SmackDown of all places, and then we had a great last man standing match, but it really hurt Nakamura in the long run, and I kind of feel bad for the guy. There's a lot to be blamed, mainly creative, but mostly the fans because they were hyping this shit up that shouldn't have been hyped as much as it should have. I'm responsible for that. But yeah, I was really excited for Styles and Nakamura to have their WrestleMania match, but fortunately, the match was not that great. WrestleMania 35. Now, everybody knows what this is. The most anticipated match for WrestleMania 35 and the match of the night was Kofi Kingston and Daniel Bryan. This was the best built match. This felt like the main event, but hell, honestly, if you watch from the beginning of the show till Kofi Mania, skip everything up to the women's main event, and you honestly have a great show. There's a great show in here, but there was just after Kofi Kingston got his moment, the rest of the show sucked. That's the honest truth. The rest of the show was garbage. Um, yeah, it was great that Kofi got his moment. Daniel Bryan was a great heel, calling him a B plus player, a hypocrite of what he was 5 years ago. It was a well built story, and it was kind of like a right place at the right time because the original plan was Mustafa Ali versus Daniel Bryan, and honestly, that wouldn't have worked in the long run. Thank God. I mean, not thank God that Mustafa Ali got injured, but like it was kind of like a blessing that we got this inconvenience, and it worked for the best because Kofi Kingston truly deserves it. Like he proved himself in that gauntlet match, and he proved himself in the chamber. His title reign was mediocre at best, but that's because he didn't have quality contenders. Dolph Ziggler, Kevin Owens. Like the most serious I took Kofi was when he fought Randy Orton. Um, but that's because of their known history. So I'm glad we got Kofi as the WWE champion. I would argue and say like it could have been a little bit better, but that's besides the point. But I'm glad that this match happened. It was amazing. It was truly one of the last few great matches in WrestleMania history. That the hype was good and the match was great. I really loved the match, and if you haven't seen it, go out of your way and watch it. It's truly you can't miss. WrestleMania 36, the show that was too big for one night. So I don't know whether to do night one and night two, but realistically, the match I was excited for the most was Brock Lesnar and Drew McIntyre. I expected this to be like a 15-minute just hoss fight of two heavyweights going at it. And fortunately, it was like a 4 minutes match where Drew McIntyre got squashed. Yes, the guy who ended the streak got squashed by Drew McIntyre. Not to say that Drew McIntyre doesn't deserve that to be treated like a legit champion, but if he's gonna squash Brock Lesnar, then he should squash Seth Rollins. He should squash Dolph Ziggler. He should squash AJ Styles. He should squash The Miz. It made no sense for him to go 20 minutes with those guys, but 4 minutes with Brock Lesnar. That was stupid. If it was 15 minutes, I would have accepted it, bar none. Even 10 minutes, like this match deserved to be a lot longer. Other stuff was cool to see or exciting to see. Like a lot of people hate me for this, but I really enjoyed Otis versus Dolph Ziggler because that was the best told story. Uh, Literally, is just a guy losing his girl and the underdog was Otis, and you could relate to that in a lot of places. And it was the simplest stories, but it worked for the best. I really enjoyed that match in that moment. You could also argue that Edge and Randy Orton could have been the most exciting match. That was the best built match on the card. Um, but for me, it was just like I wanted to see two heavyweights go at it. Like that is that is just awesome to see that. And then I wasn't sure that the Boneyard was going to be all that great. The Firefly Funhouse, I knew I was expecting something. Granted, what I got was what it was. But anyways, those are my reactions. But for this year, which match I'm most excited for? The best built match, honestly, was Biggie and Apollo. But as far as the match I'm excited for this year the most, would probably be Roman, Edge, and Bryan, just because I know for a fact that those guys are gonna kill it in the ring. Those three, like it better not be a shitty match. I swear to God. But I trust that all three of these men, because these guys are good veterans. They all came from the independents. Yes, even Edge came from the independents. Roman Reigns wasn't, but he did start like not as a wrestler, but it's great to see like three guys who get the WWE way. So I'm gonna have to say Roman, Edge, and Bryan is the match I'm excited for the most this year. Yeah, that's my reaction. Every match I was excited for, each WrestleMania from 2010 to now. What are you guys' thoughts? It's me, the ALE Double X Prince. Subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. And until then, I'm out.